I think we can go ahead and start. Yeah, so today I'll be covering CSS, which is a style sheet language. Um, yeah, cool. So like before we begin, I would like just like everyone to just quickly introduce themselves. So you can basically like state your name, your major, your grade level, and like why, like one thing that you hope to get out by joining WebDVT, whether it be like meeting new people or just learning about web development in general. Yeah, and the reason I want to do this was because I want to like make these meetings like more interactive and not just like you listening through me like lecturing, just so that you feel that you're like part of it. But if you don't want to like introduce yourself for whatever reason, it's totally okay. Um, but I'm just gonna name everyone by the order that you show up on my screen. So but I'll start with myself. So my name is Hassan, and I'm a senior majoring in computer science. So for me, like one thing that I want by like being involved with web development is basically creating this platform where anyone can like share and also like broaden their knowledge of web development. Yeah, just like giving people uh, helping people to like explore their interest. Yeah. So the next person on my screen is, let's see. Um, yeah, for some reason, like for the people who are like, um, who have their camera on, I can't see their name. Okay, well, I'll just go from the participants list. So the next person on my list is Daniel Shiwan Batch. I'm not sure if I got it right, but
Yeah, Schoenbach.
Schoenbach.
So my name is Daniel Schoenbach. I'm a 35-year-old transfer student. I just graduated from Virginia Western with an associate degree in engineering and computer science. So I guess I'm a junior-ish coming in. And I joined the club because I have some professional experience with web development, but I never really learned sort of the fundamentals and whatnot. So I'm just hoping to kind of solidify the fundamentals and learn some more of make sure I'm on a good footing. So
Awesome, cool. Thanks for sharing, Daniel. So the next person on my list is Brian Guyen.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. My name is Brian Wynn. I'm a junior now, and web development is a pretty interesting topic. Always interested in new skills and making and maintaining a website is definitely one of the more interesting ones. So I'll kind of hope to learn more about that when I join the club.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Brian. So the next person is Adi Sirkar.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So yeah, my name is Adi Sarkar. I'm a computer science junior, and I wanted to learn how to make my own website and other cool skills, and also meet new people, make some new friends.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Adi. So let's see. Next person is Aiden Sprague.
Hey, yeah, my name is Aiden, but
Aiden.
yeah, I'm a sophomore in CS, and I guess I'm just kind of hoping to learn some basics about web development because I'm not going to be taking really any related classes for at least a year or so. So I want to kind of get a head start.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. So the next person is Angelina Cruz.
Hello, I'm Angelina. I plan on majoring in computer science. I'm a freshman, and I hope to just learn any form of web development, I guess.
Awesome. So the next person is Catherine Croft.
Hi, I'm Catherine. I am a computer science major, senior, and I think that web development is interesting and it's a good skill to have, but I don't know very much about it. So I'm hoping to learn more about it.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Catherine. So the next person is, let's see, Edward Gaines.
Yeah, name is Edward. My major is applied economic management, and I'm a junior. And I'm just hoping to gain more skills, like learning web development, and just like broaden my skills.
Awesome. The next person is Gaurav.
Yeah, it's Gaurav.
Gaurav, cool.
Yeah. So my major is computer engineering, and the reason I'm joining web development club is to I'm kind of hoping to learn new things, learn a few things, because I really don't really know much about it.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. The next person is Justin Turkeywood.
Yeah, Justin Turkowitz. Hi, I'm Justin. I'm a freshman and I plan to major in computer science. I just want to learn about the field of web development.
All right, awesome. The next person is Keshav Batija.
Yeah, it's Keshav Bateja. Hi everyone, my name is Keshav and I am a general engineer. I am enrolled in general engineering, a freshman, and I intend to pursue CS. And I already am familiar with the basics of web development, so I joined the club to expand my knowledge.
Awesome, thanks for sharing, Keshav. Let's see, the next person on my screen is Lena Bowles. Lena, are you here?
Yeah, they said their mic was broken. They're typing in chat.
Oh, okay, sorry. Cool. Yeah. Let's see. The next person I have is Luke Chiller. I
Hi,
think I pronounced it.
I'm Luke. I am a freshman. I'm trying to go into computer engineering, and I know some HTML, but I'm trying to get into more of the creative languages behind web development.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Luke. The next person I have is Matthew Ozorski.
Yeah. My name is Matthew Ozrowski. I'm a bit major. I'm a junior, and I like the internet a lot, and web development interests me.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Matthew. Let's see. The next person I have is Morgan Mosky, Mosco.
Hi, I'm Morgan. I'm looking to major in mechanical engineering, and I'm a freshman. And I joined WebDVT because I thought it was interesting and it'd be a good skill.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Morgan. The next person I have is Nadia Trampert.
Hi everyone, this is Nadia Trampert. I'm a junior. I took CS 3744 over summer and I loved it. So I would like to learn more in this class about web development.
Awesome. I think this is the last person. So I have Paul Broomy.
Yeah, so I'm Paul Broom. I am a freshman, so I'm in general engineering. And I know kind of the basics of web development, like HTML and CSS, and a little bit of JavaScript, but I'm really hoping to get more of the back end out of this club.
Awesome. Cool. I think that's everybody, but if I missed anyone, you can like unmute yourself or just post in the chat and I'll call you.
All right, hey everyone, I'm Dan. I'm a freshman in general engineering. I'm looking to declare as computer engineering and then like specifically for major software systems. So like hopefully out of this club, I'll learn like the fundamentals of web development and just add a good skill to my skill set.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Let's see. Yeah. Is that everyone? Cool. It was really interesting to like getting to know each of your like what you hope to like get out, and I hope that like you can like actually get out those whether it be like learning new skills, like being like just learning about like web development. I hope you're able to like achieve something that's like related to your goals. But with that, let's begin the topic of this meeting. So before we talk about CSS, I just want to go over like the fundamentals of web development. So three languages that are like really important for web development is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So last meeting we talked about HTML, and we're gonna go over CSS in this meeting. But basically, if you want to like really see like what they're for, you can think of HTML as the structure, and CSS is like the presentation, and JavaScript is more like behavior. So HTML is mainly used for like structuring the content on your website. So it mainly deals with like how the content is like structured. So you can almost think of it as like the structure of a building. And CSS is more like styling those like different HTML elements to make it like prettier. And JavaScript is more about like manipulating the HTML elements on your website to make your website like more dynamic and make it into like a web application. So here's another example. As you can see, we have a person, and HTML is more like the skeleton of this person, human, and the CSS is like the clothing, and JavaScript is more like organs and skins, and yeah. And like with all those different parts of web development, you can like create a website, and that is like rendered on your browser. Yeah. So what is CSS? So CSS is a style sheet language. So a style sheet language is a set of rules defining how an HTML element will be presented on your browser. So it is mainly used for website layout and design. And there's also like other languages like Sass and Less, which lets you to have like conditional variables, which makes CSS like more easier to like use. But these are like extended languages and functionality, but we're just gonna cover CSS during this meeting. So this is like the basic structure of the CSS, and I'll talk about in more detail in a bit. So there are three methods of adding CSS to your website or HTML file. So the first one is called inline CSS. So basically, you can add a style attribute to your HTML element and add your CSS values like declaration inside the style attribute. So over here we have a paragraph element, and if we want to make the text color blue, then we can do so using inline CSS by like having this attribute of style. And for the value of this attribute, we can specify the CSS declaration like key value pairs. So this is the first way. So the second way is using internal CSS. So basically inside your HTML file, inside the heading tag, you can have another tag called style, and you specify the type, which is text/CSS, and you can add your CSS code inside the style tag. And the last one is called external CSS. So basically, you put your CSS code inside another file, and you link that, you reference that inside your HTML by using the link element inside the head. So generally speaking, it is always recommended that you separate the your styling with your HTML just to make it like more readable. So usually you would want to have an external CSS file and put all your CSS code inside. But sometimes it is convenient to just specify the CSS either internally, like inside the heading tag, or just put that inline if it is like really quick styling. Yeah. So if you like include CSS in an external file, you can reuse that CSS code in like multiple HTML files. So that's one benefit that you can get out by using external CSS instead of like internal or inline CSS. So here's the basic structure of CSS selectors. So basically, you need to specify the selector, which can be the type of HTML element, or a class name or an ID, which I'll go over in a bit. But you basically start by using specifying the selector, like where in your HTML file is this styling being implemented, and then you start with the open brackets or curly braces, and then you specify the property and value, which is a key value pair, and together they're called declaration. Yeah, so this is like the basic structure of a CSS selector, and over here we're saying that the paragraph elements inside my HTML file should have a text color of blue. Yeah. So you can actually specify, apply the same style to multiple selectors by separating the selectors with commas. So over here, the font weight styling is being applied to header 1 through header 4 HTML elements. So this is a really convenient way to just apply the same style to like multiple selectors. Yeah. And you can also apply multiple declaration, which is basically like your CSS key value pairs to one selector by like just separating the declaration with like semicolons, and you usually want to start on a new line just to make it readable, but it doesn't affect the functionality. So over here we're applying the font family property and font size and color to this paragraph element. So it is going to apply the CSS styling or CSS rule to all the paragraph elements inside your HTML file. So, so let's go ahead and create a file. So if you missed our last meeting, or if you didn't watch the video, like the recording, you can go ahead and create a folder called WebDVT_workspace. So you can like create all your files and project files inside this folder just to keep it like organized. And then inside this folder, you can create another folder called CSS cheat sheet. And you can open up WebStorm or any other text editors. And inside WebStorm, you can open up this folder, which is a CSS cheat sheet. And then you can like right click on the folder on your left sidebar and just create an HTML file called index.html. And you can also create another file called style.css. So I'm gonna give you guys a minute to do that, and let me know if you have any questions. You can post that in the chat or just unmute yourself and speak up. Yeah, so Daniel posted in the chat on like the this slideshow, and yeah, so you can like go there and have access to the slideshow if you missed any of the previous slide. And I know it's kind of a struggle if you only have like one screen because you're also like coding and you need to like see the slide and like my text editors. So usually I would recommend to just have a second monitor, but I know that it's not always the case. Like if I'm going too fast, just let me know and I'll try to like go slower if that's gonna help. Yeah. So when you create the HTML file, it should like automatically populate it with some tags. So yeah, you don't need to do anything for now. I'm gonna like start from scratch. Yeah. Yeah, like another thing you can do is just like, I guess, use your one screen and have like multiple windows. So that's another solution. But I'm gonna go ahead and just pause the slide and create the folder. So I'm gonna just create a folder called CSS cheat sheet. And then I'm gonna open up WebStorm. Let's see. Okay, so inside this folder, I'm just gonna create a HTML file called index.html, and I'm gonna create another file called style.css. So I'm just gonna give this HTML file a title of CSS cheat sheet. And then the way you can like run this HTML on your browser is you can like copy the absolute path. So mine is this over here. So if you copy the absolute path, and then you can like open up your browser window, and then over here you can just type in file colon and triple /, and then paste your absolute path. Yeah, and that should like render the HTML file. And the way I know it is being rendered is if I took a look at the name of this tab is CSS cheat sheet, which is the title that I specified in my HTML file. So after that, we can create a link, like reference this style.css inside this HTML file by just creating a link element. So if you're using WebStorm or if you're using like other text editors, but you have this plugin called Emmet, it gives you like shortcuts to type things. So if you just like type in the link of your element and then press your tab key on your keyboard, that is gonna like automatically create this for you, so you don't have to like type everything out. So it is element name plus tab key. Okay, so for the href attribute, I'm just gonna specify the file itself. So it is style.css, and it's usually a good practice to specify the type, which is a text CSS file. Let's see. Yep. Okay. So inside my body, I'm just gonna create a box. So this div element is only have the display block property. So this is a really good element to like wrap and group things together. So I'm gonna have a header of header 1. Actually, let's do header 2. So this is header 2, and then inside the paragraph, I'm gonna create a some dummy text. So again, with Emmet, you can like create a bunch of dummy text by typing lorem and then give it a number. I'm gonna do 30 actually, and then you can press your tab key, and then it's gonna like automatically create this dummy text for you. And let me just reformat this real quick. Cool. So if I save it and refresh my browser tab, it's gonna render this. So as you can see, we have a header 2 and some dummy text. So now let's play around with the styling of this HTML file. So to start, I'm just gonna specify the element that I want to apply the style to. So in CSS, one way you can specify the selector is using the name of the HTML element or the type. So in this case, I'm selecting the body over here. So after that, I'm going to open up a curly braces, and then I'm just going to give it a background color. Let's see, background color of a grayish color. So one way to like specify color is using hexadecimal. So I'm going to go over that in a little bit, but you can just, so this is the hexadecimal of white. So let's give it a white color. And then for the color of the text, which you can specify by using the color property, I'm going to give it a some grayish color. So instead of using like 6-character hexadecimal, this is a short way of doing it. If all the like adjacent pair of hexadecimal has the same character, so this is, you can also type in like this, but this is just a shortcut if everything is like the same. Okay. So if I were to just like save it and refresh my browser tab, as you can see, it has a white background and a grayish text. So the way I can check it is by inspecting and opening up my developers tool. So inside the developers tool, you can go to the elements tab, and then you can like click on this icon over here, which is gonna like select an element to inspect it. And you click over here and then just like hover over whatever you want to like check out. So let me select the body, and then as you can see, I have these styles shown over here. So I have a background color of white and a text color of dark gray, and this is being applied by the style.css file. Yeah, and this is the styling that comes automatically with the HTML element itself. So by default, the body element has a display of block and a margin of 8 pixel. Yep. Let's see. So let's also change the font. So I'm going to give it a font family of Arial. Did I spell it? And for the secondary fonts, let's give it a serif. So what this means is that if for some reason my browser can't find this font, it's gonna use the second font that is like specified over here. Yeah, someone asked in the chat, like, what do you put in your search bar to open a file? So inside your search bar, you can just type in file, colon, // and then you can paste the absolute path of your HTML file. So you can do that by like right-clicking on your HTML file and then doing like copy and copy absolute path. Yeah, cool. Let's see. Yeah, so if I were to change the font family and then if I save it, let's refresh my browser. So now, as you can see, the font has changed. And if I hover over the body, I can see it displayed over here. So that's cool. Let's see. Okay, so we can also specify the size of the text. So in HTML, there are like several ways to specify the size, but the most common way, one of the most common way is using pixel. So if I were to give it a 16 pixel and then refresh it, as you can see, nothing really changes. And this is because the default font size of the body is actually 16 pixel. But if I were to decrease it to 12 and save it and refresh it, as you can see, every HTML element, like their font size has changed. So yeah, so this is how you would like change the font of a text. But I'm gonna keep it to 16 pixel.
I have a question.
Yep.
Where did you link in your HTML file? Like, where did you put the link to the CSS file?
Yeah. So you put your links inside the heading. I think it's called, yeah, heading tag. So everything inside the heading tag is something that isn't displayed on your browser, but it's, so you usually put things like the title, the meta tags, which are used for like the search engines to like better index your website, and also your JavaScript or JavaScript or CSS links. So this is where you want to like specify them.
So even though we put it in the what is it, header, in the head section, it will apply it to like the whole HTML file.
Yeah, so everything that you include inside the heading tag is about like the property of this HTML file and not the content, right? So by including this link element over here and specifying the CSS file that we want to like reference, this CSS that we have over here is being applied to like this HTML file, like the content, which you put inside the body tag.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I think we can go ahead and go back to the slide. So let me. So there are 3 ways you can like specify a CSS selector. So the first way is using the type of the HTML element. The second way is using a class name, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And the third way is using ID. So let's go over the type selector first. So you can call it an element selector or type selector. So type selector is the simplest way to like specify, like to apply some CSS rules to your HTML file. So it basically targets an HTML element by name. So over here, we're targeting the body element. And over here, we're targeting the paragraph and header 1 and unordered list. And then you just open up your curly braces and add your CSS rule or declaration. So this is like the simplest way to like apply CSS to your HTML file. So some of the really like essential, commonly used HTML elements or selectors are like for the primary structure of your HTML file, we have HTML and body. And for the, in terms of the elements that you put inside your body, we have paragraph, we have line break, and we have header 1 through header 6. We have UL, which stands for unordered list, and we also have ordered list. And A stands for link, and this is for image. And div is the most commonly used HTML element, which you can like think of it as a box that you use to like group stuff together. And so these are some of the, like the inline elements, which only take up the necessary width and not the whole width of a screen. So we have M, which I think makes a text italic, and I is used for like adding icons, and strong and B is used for like making a text bold, like changing the font weight. And I don't know about Q, but yeah. So span is the brother of div, but it only takes up the necessary width. Cool. So this is the second way of using a applying CSS rule to your HTML. So it is called ID selector. An ID in an HTML, like an ID is an HTML attribute that is added to your HTML markup. And you reference that ID in your CSS with a hash. So over here, we have an image element, and we give it an ID of logo. So if you want to apply some CSS to this element, then you can do that by using the ID of it. So you can just do like hash and type in the ID, and then put in your declaration. Yeah. So the last and the most common way of applying CSS is using the class selector. So a class is an HTML attribute that is added to your HTML element or markup. So there's a typo over here, but you reference this class with a period. So over here we have an unordered list, and then we gave the class of ingredients. And we can apply some CSS to this element by using its class name. So we can start by typing in the dot, and then typing in the name of this class, and then just adding our CSS declaration. So there's a difference between using ID and class. So the most important difference is that there can only be one ID on a HTML file, but there can be like multiple classes. So what I mean is that if you take a look at this example, we can only have one ID for one HTML file, but we can have like, we can use multiple class names and inside one HTML file, and that's okay. So ID is like more specific than a class, and an element can have both an ID and multiple classes. So so one scenario you want to use ID is if you know that this ID is like, if you want to like apply this ID to just one really specific element inside your HTML file, that you know that you're not going to like create another element with this ID. So one example is like using the top navigation bar or some specific parts or section in your HTML file. In that case, you can use ID. But usually if there's some styling, like CSS styling, that you want to apply to multiple elements inside your HTML file, then you should use like classes. So we also have descendant selectors. So basically, you can select a HTML element that is like inside another element by using the descendant structure. So basically, if we want to apply some CSS to this paragraph with the class of author, we can do so by first like selecting the parent element, and over here we're using the ID, and then add a space, and then add your second selector, which we're selecting using its class. So we add a period and specify the class name, and then we add our declaration. Let's see. And one thing to note is that you can have like multiple class names inside one HTML element. So over here, we have this div with a class of ingredients and time. So either of these classes can have like different CSS applied, and the way we can like select this specific div is that we can just put the class names like adjacent to one another, like right after one another. So we're specifying the first class, and we're also saying that apply the CSS to an element with both of these classes. So this is how you would do it. So here are some things that you can and can't do with CSS. So anything that deals with like the styling, such as the colors, the background colors, spacing, the font, and also like the positioning, you can manipulate it with CSS. And you can like change the content or a markup, like the structure with a CSS. So there are several ways you can like specify colors and CSS. So the first one is just using the color names. So there are several color names that you can use. So there's like dark, blue, red, etc. And the second and the most common way is using the hexadecimal. So you can specify the hexadecimal of this color. And the third way is using the RGB. So it stands for red, green, and blue. So you basically specify like how much of each color, this color, like each of these three colors, this color is like taking up. So if you take a look at this photo, the hexadecimal of like double F and 40 is the same as red, green, blue, like this one, like 255 red, and for green and blue, it's just 0. And same goes for the other ones. So 255 and decimal is equivalent to double F in hexadecimal. Yeah. So let's see. Yeah, another really important thing in CSS is the box model. So basically, you can think that like every HTML element has this box model. So right outside the content of your HTML, you have some padding, and then outside that you have your border, and then you have your margin. So many people like confuse the margin with the padding, but like as you get more, like as you use CSS like more, you'll be like understand the difference between them. And we'll also go over this quickly. So here's another pictures representing this box model. So over here, if we like think of this as a button, inside this blue box, we can add the name of this button, like the content that is like displayed. And right outside, we have some spacing that is between the content and the border of this button. And then if we want to like have some spacing between this button and other elements, just like push it, then we can have like specify the margin of this element. So you can always go back to this source code over here if you like miss any of this, but we're just gonna go ahead and start implementing. Yeah, so right now we just have this over here. So let's try to like wrap this, the header to end the paragraph inside a div. So it's like a box. So I'm just gonna copy paste. And then so if we want to like apply some styling to both of these heading to end paragraph, then we want to select this div element. So let's just give it a class, and let's give it a class of box1. And inside our CSS, let's just select this box1 and open up some curly braces. And let's give it a background color of dark color. So this is one of the really commonly used hexadecimal for like for the dark color. And then for the text, let's give it a color of white. Okay, let's refresh. So as you can see, this box has a background of dark and the text color of white. And if I try to select this and look at my developers tool, I know that this styling is shown over here. Yeah, and you can also check the box model of this element, right? So if you take a look over here, it doesn't. So this box doesn't have any margin, and it doesn't have any border or padding, but it has a width for the content. So that's good to know. So let's try to change that. So for this box, let's give it a padding of 20 pixel. So like we're applying a 20 pixel padding to all sides of this, box. So top, right, and left, and bottom. And let's also give it a margin of 20 pixel. So I think this is 20 pixel top and bottom, and 0 for the left and right. And let's also give it a border width of 3 pixel. And let's give it a border color of red. And this is how you comment in CSS, by the way. And let's also give it a styling solid border. Okay, so if I were to save this and refresh, and if I were to just select this div with a class of box1 and go to like scroll down, I can see that it has a margin top bottom of like 20 pixel, and it has a border of like red and 3 pixel width, and it also has some padding. So I hope that this made it like clear in terms of like what the box model is, like what I talked about. Yeah, someone on the chat commented like margin right would specify the right margin, and margin top would specify the top margin, and same applies for padding. Yes, that is right. So you can specify the margin for individual sides by using this syntax, but there are also like two shortcuts, like shorter way of doing that. So the first one is using like putting them all in one line with a property name of margin, So in this case, 5 pixel is for the top, and 10 pixel is for the right side, and bottom and left. So it goes from like clockwise, right? So it goes clockwise. And if you want to have, so if you only want to specify the horizontal or vertical size, you can just use 2 values. So the 5 pixel specify the top and bottom, and 10 pixel specify the horizontal x-axis. Yeah.
I have another question.
Yep.
For some reason, when I refresh my like the page, the HTML on like the website, for some reason like the CSS file is not being applied to like the HTML file. So I don't know what I did wrong.
Yeah. So was it working before?
No, it hasn't been working.
Okay.
So I don't know if I linked it wrong. Or...
Yeah. So here's the correct way to like link it. So inside your heading tag, you basically specify this HTML element. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay. Yes, you need to make sure that whatever you put in the href matches the file name.
Yeah, for the type, I didn't have the text /CSS in parentheses in a quotation.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, like whenever you specify the value of an HTML attribute, you need to use a quotation, either like single quotation or double. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see. Yeah, let's. Yeah, so let's actually create another box. I'm just gonna copy paste it, and for this box, let's change the class name. Yep. And inside the CSS, let's do box 2. So I need to add a period since I'm using a class selector. So let's give this one oh yeah, so there's actually a shorter way of specifying all these declaration, and the way is basically specifying like using the border property, and the first value that you entered is going to be the width of the border, so I'm going to give it 1 pixel, and the second value is going to be the color of this border, and the third value is the style of this border, so I'm going to give it a solid. And then let's also give it some padding of 10 pixel. And let's also change the border radius. And let's give it a 15 pixel. So if I were to save it, yeah, and if I were to hover over this, I can see that I have a border of 1 pixel and then some padding inside, like between the border and the content. So that's cool. So one thing that is like really common in some CSS framework is this is the ability to like push your boxes away from the edges of the screen. So if you just, I guess, take a look at our website, and let me, yeah. So whenever I like change the width, you can see that the content is like pushed inside. So it's like really responsive on like different screen sizes. And the way to like do that using CSS is using like specifying the width and manipulating the width depending on the screen size of your device. So I'm just gonna create a simple CSS for that. So usually the way you do that is using a class name of container, because it is almost like a container that you put your stuff together like inside. So yeah, I'm just gonna open this, create this class, and then let's give this div a class of container. Okay, so I want to like add some margin or spacing between this between the edges over here. So the way I do that is by specifying the width. So let's say if I want to specify it using pixel of like 960 pixel, so, and then I'm gonna give it a margin of auto. So basically, it's gonna fill up the margin of like left and right and top and bottom. That is like extra from this width. So let me just demonstrate that for you. So if I save it and refresh my browser, as you can see, the content inside the container div is only taking up 960 pixel width, and then the extra width is filled up by, is like being pushed to the center of the screen because I set the margin of this div with the container class to auto. So if I were to select this container, I can see that it specified some margin that is like 224.5, but that's not really important because I don't really care about like what the margin value is. I only know that as like applying the necessary width, necessary margin to push this content to the center of the screen. And I also know that the width of this container is 960. So this is where you can like see that. Yeah, but but this is not the really good way of specifying the container, and the reason is that if you make your window smaller and when it is like below the 960 pixel width, as you can see, the content isn't like wrapped around. So that's not something that I want to do. So instead of hard cut, like giving it a pixel value, you can actually use a percentage. So if I give it the width a percent, like give a value of like 80%, in that case, it's always going to take up 80% of the screen size, no matter like how much I like change the width of the window. So even if I like make this really small, it's always taking up only like 80%. So that's usually like how you use a container class. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. So let's create some bullet points. So I'm gonna open up a div, and then inside I'm gonna give this a header 2, and then I'm just gonna say categories. And then inside, like under that, I'm gonna open up a unordered list. And inside, I'm gonna give it some list items. And this is gonna be category 1, and let's do category 2 and 3. So if I were to, I guess, just save it. So this is the styling that comes with the default HTML elements. But oh yeah, also let's, like for each of the list item, let's wrap this around in a link. So I'm not gonna redirect to anywhere, so I'm just gonna give it a value of hash. So I'm gonna put this inside. Let's delete these. So if I were to save it and refresh, so it turned these list items into a link. So if I just click on them, it's not gonna like redirect me to anywhere. So yeah. So let's change the styling of this unordered list. So I only want to like apply the styling to these elements. So in order to do that, I need to specify a class, and let's give it a class name of categories, and then let's copy this name, and then I'm gonna type in a period because I'm using a class selector, and since I want to manipulate the styling of the child elements, I can specify the child element of like header 2, and then I'm gonna give it a styling of align center. So this is going to align this header 1 to the center of the screen. So if I were to save it, yeah. So now it is like aligning it to the center. And let's also give this category some stylings. So let's give it a padding of 10 pixel. Let's give it a border of 1 pixel and color of white, and then a solid border. Okay. So if I were to go back, so this is the border that I have, and let's create some spacing between these two elements. So to do that, you can use margin. Sorry, I'm gonna give it a top margin of 10 pixel, and if I were to go back, yeah, cool. And I also want to like get rid of these bullet points, and you can do that by manipulating the this CSS property called list style, and I'm just gonna type in none, so it's not, so you can like just get rid of it. Yeah. So usually if you want to like create a navigation bar or a sidebar, like menu bar, you want to use like list, like unordered list, and just get rid of the styling like bullet points using this CSS property. Yep. So in CSS, you can also specify like the styling that is shown when you like when the element is like in different state. So what I mean is that so if we actually take a look at this WebDVT website, and if I were to like hover over this button, as you can see, like the background of this button changes, and the text color also changes, right? So in CSS, you can do that by specifying the state. So I'm just gonna select all of the link elements, and I'm gonna select their hover state. So whatever I enter inside this CSS selector is gonna like, it is going to be applied when a user like hover over this link. So I'm just gonna change the color to red. Okay, so let's try that. So if I were to hover over this, as you can see, I'm also like changing the color of this link. So that's how you specify, like apply stylings to hover state. Yeah. Let's see. And let's just go over like one last thing because we're kind of like over time. So if you take a look at this website, one thing that you notice is that we have this huge box with a background image, and we also have a text on top. So usually you call this a showcase area or masthead, and I'm gonna go over like how you can like create this this styling. So inside my HTML, I'm just gonna create a div, and I'm gonna give this an ID of showcase. Yep. And then inside, I'm just gonna give it a header too of some, say this is the showcase area. Okay. Yeah, so someone in the chat asked that like what the hover state is called, like hover is called, like is it an event or something? So I don't think it is an event because event is more like user actions. But I think hovering state is, yeah, actually I need to look it up, I think, but I think you can say that as like a CSS state of an element, I think. So actually, if you like hover over this and then go to your developers tool, and then there's actually, if you like click on this, it actually tells you like what states this element can have. So we have the active state, we have focus, focus within, visited, and hover. So I think the way you call them is like a CSS state of an element. Yeah, but I could be wrong, but I can definitely like look it up. Yeah. So we were creating this showcase area that is similar to what we have on our website. So basically, I created a div with the ID of showcase, and inside I added a header to text. So I'm just gonna select this with the ID selector. So first, I'm gonna give it a background image. So background image, you need to give it a value which starts with like URL, brace, brackets and colon, quotation. And then inside, I'm just gonna, let's see. Yeah, so I have this image link, which I'm gonna post in the chat. And then, so you guys can like use that image. But if I were to just do this, and refresh, so I can see that the text is showing up, and it is inheriting the color from the body. So every child CS like HTML elements inherits the styling from the parent, unless you give it a different styling. But basically, we know that is like showing the text, and we also have this image, but it is only taking up the necessary width of the content. So in order to give it a like to create like more space to show this whole image or just like part of it, what you need to do is you need to give it a height property. So actually, I'm gonna give it a min height, so minimum height. So I'm gonna give it a minimum height of 400 pixel. Okay. So let's refresh. Yeah, I forgot to include semicolon. Okay, let's refresh. Okay, so now we're showing the So now the image is taking up 400 pixel of height. But if I want to like center, like if I want to like show the center of this image and not the left bottom corner, I think what I can do is use background position, and then I can specify center right or anywhere. So if I were to change it, it's going to show a different area of this image. So yeah, so this is what it's showing. And I also want to align this text to the center. So I can do that by doing text align center. So if I were to save it and go back, so now the text is like pushed to the middle. Let's see. Yeah, let's also give it a color of white. So to FFF. So now like all like this, the header to text has a color of white. Let's try to push this to the center a little bit. So I'm gonna give it a padding of let's say 20 pixels, 0. Let's increase it to maybe 3 pixel. Yeah, actually, let's select the header to itself. So if we want to select the header to, and then let's give it a padding top 80 pixel. Let's try it. Okay. Yeah. So I guess like when you're applying padding to this showcase area instead of the child element, it is also gonna like increase the height of the image, which is not what we want. So it is better to, I guess, just specify the padding inside the header too. So if you want to show all of the image, you can set the minimum height to 100. I could be wrong, but let's try. Nope. Yeah, I think you. Yeah, I think in order to do that, you need to know the width of the image, I guess. But you can just like increase the height to maybe like 700 maybe, and then it should show all the image. But as you can see, since we have some extra space, it is filling up those space with like other parts of the image. So it's like repeating this. So I think you can remove that by doing background repeat, no repeats. Yeah. So let's refresh. Okay, cool. Now it is not repeating it. And yeah. Actually, let's do margin out of 0. Let's see if this, nope. Okay, yeah, I think I covered most like the important stuff like for CSS, and the source code has like other things that you can like take a look at, but these are like the most important stuff. And I'm also going to like show you some links where you can like take them like look up more about like CSS. but yeah, I hope you guys learned like the basics of CSS. And I hope you found this meeting informative. So yeah, does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
I have a question, but it's not too related to like what we went over today. It
Uh-huh.
was more, it's more related to like when we're actually hosting a web server, because it's my understanding that towards the end of,
Mhm.
or like, I guess I should say in future meetings, we're going to learn about backend.
Mhm.
So it's a question. I'm somewhat familiar with Java. So what are your thoughts on like having a Java backend?
I know it is I know you can like have a backend with Java, but I've never implemented a backend using Java. So, but I can definitely like show you some resources on how to do that. But toward the end of the semester, I'm hoping to cover Node.js, which is used for creating the backend of a web application. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know like very basics. I know that it's basically just JavaScript that runs on your
Mhm.
machine, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna share this source code and slide with you guys, but everything like you can find all of our meeting notes by going to the events page on our website, and I'm gonna post them over here, and also like the Zoom recording of this meeting. So I'm gonna just stop recording for now. Oh wait, I'm gonna stop sharing. Okay, and I'm gonna